Now I've got an old carrier unit here. Let me show you what it's doing. So I turned the thermostat up so it's blowing and calling for heat, and everything's looking great, right? But watch what happens when I put the filter back in. So I just put the filter back in, and now let's give it a few moments and I'm going to show you what's going to happen. Now after a few minutes you can see here that the furnace shut off completely. The pilot light is still good. You can't really see it that well on camera. But now the motor's just going to keep blowing even though we haven't reached temperature. And that's what happened every time the filter's there. Now the filter is good. I checked it. It's not clogged or anything. And then when you take it out, if you reset the furnace or just let it sit for a few minutes, it's going to fire back up. So now let me show you what's going on. I'm going to shut the furnace off here. And let's talk about the limit switch. So the limit switch, it's this one right up here. Now some limit switches have a manual reset. So what you can try and do is hold this down for a few minutes. This little button here. Hold that down for a few seconds, reset it, and then turn the furnace back on and try again. Now for this furnace, I've already done that and it fails again. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to replace this limit switch. Super easy. You just unbolt this, disconnect these two, pop the new switch back in, reconnect these two, and that's about it. So I just disconnected the leads here and I'm going to take this off. And as you can see, this limit switch is actually physically broken as well. It's failing, but it's also physically broken. So I've got my 6mm socket. I'm going to loosen this and then we're going to replace it. So here's the broken limit switch. As you can see, it's physically broken on one of the connectors, and then also it was failing like I showed you, and we tried to reset this. It's pretty old. And then I've got the new limit switch here. Let me just show you. So for the older carriers, this is the part number. So go ahead, you can pause that if you need the part number, and let me show you the new limit switch. So here's the new switch. Pretty much exactly the same as the old one. I'll show you the old one here. And installation is going to be the reverse of taking it out. So let me show you. You're going to take this, pop it in like that, put the screw in, connect the two leads, and then we're going to fire it back up and see if it fixes it. Make sure there's no obstructions here. Shouldn't be, but just make sure there's no obstructions. Alright, so I just finished tightening that. No need to go crazy here. Just got to make sure it's snug and in place. Reconnect the two leads. And then I've taken the filter back out, but let's fire this back up and then see what happens first. So I don't know if you heard that click, but yeah, that click's what we want to hear. And the furnace runs great, but let's pop that filter back in and see what happens. Now I've just put the filter back in and make sure the air flows in the correct direction. But let's give this a few minutes and see if it shuts off again. If it doesn't shut off again, then great, we've solved the problem with the new limit switch. So stick around. So it's been running for a few minutes now with the filter. It would have shut off by now, but I have the thermostat cranked and I'm going to let it run a full heat cycle. But pretty much with that new limit switch, the issue is resolved. So if you've got a furnace that keeps shutting off when you have a filter in there, or if you have a furnace that just the blower keeps running but it actually doesn't produce any heat, you might want to look into the limit switch. Anyways, hope that helps. Cheers.